Hey everyone, Airball here, and welcome to the first video of a new YouTube series that we're going to be running on the Degen Gaming channel, where we look at the successful tournament decks of the last few weeks. And the most recent tournament that we're interested in is the one that happened this past Saturday. It was the Degen Gaming Open, and this is the list that won. This is the Esper Clerics list that Wargor, or Sébastien Demanet, took to a 9-0 finish and all the way to the top in impressive fashion while he was playing another tournament at the same time. So the deck is pretty simple. It's basically like the one that I played on my YouTube channel a few days ago, except it cuts out a lot of the cruft. So the main thrust of the deck is the same. You have your big beaters, Voice of the Blessed, Cleric of Life's Bond, and Righteous Valkyrie. All of these things pay you off for gaining life and hit pretty hard. So Voice of the Blessed is a basically better Ajani's Pride mate for double white. If it has 4 or more +1/+1 counters on it, it has Flying and Vigilance, and if you get to 10, it has Indestructible, which isn't something that comes up a whole lot, but can be relevant when it does. And every time you gain life, you put a +1/+1 counter on it. Its younger brother, Cleric of Life's Bond. Whenever you gain life for the first time each turn, so only once per turn, you put a +1/+1 counter on it, and it triggers whenever another Cleric enters the battlefield. So it doesn't get as big as the Voice, but it also enables itself when you have another Cleric in your hand. And the Righteous Valkyrie pays you off if you ever get to 27 life. It becomes this double Anthem effect, and also plays pretty well with Pyre of Heroes and Inquisitor Captain. So these are what we're trying to beat down the opponent with. We have a bunch of enabling creatures over here on the left-hand side. We have 4 copies of Lunarch Veteran, which is something that we can do on turn 1. It's basically a Soul Warden effect. Whenever any creature enters the battlefield, we gain 1 life, which triggers our big beaters. Angel of Unity is a 2-mana lifelinker, which also gains life and can therefore pump our other stuff as well, paying us off. It flies, which is surprisingly important. It gets over the ground game of the black-based control decks, mono-black control, or Orzhov control with their Shambling Ghasts and Cursebound Witches, that kind of stuff. And it's also a way to pump a creature in your hand, so if they do deal with your little creatures in the first few turns, then their big brothers come down a lot meaner later on. 2 copies of Vanishing Verse as the removal of choice in the deck. Also 1 copy of Skyclave Apparition as a potential hit off of the Inquisitor Captain to remove stuff. And Pyre of Heroes is an interesting pod effect that pays you off for having pods of tribal decks. So you sacrifice a creature for 2 mana, you search your library for a creature card that shares a creature type with the sacrificed creature, but for a little more mana. And so the point here is that you can take one of your 2-drops and fetch Paulo if you need to disrupt the opponent's hand. You can sacrifice Paulo or Righteous Valkyrie to hit Inquisitor Captain or Oprah. And over here on the right-hand side, we have the stuff that makes the deck a little more resilient. So as I said, Paulo can hit board wipes from the opponent's hand, slow them down just long enough so you get that last few points of damage in. Inquisitor Captain is obviously the main alchemy card of the deck. Comes into play, and you get this kind of Coco-ish effect, Collected Company-ish effect, where 2 creature cards come to your hand with converted mana cost 3 or less, and one of them gets to go into the battlefield. So by itself, that's pretty fair, but the problem, what some people think is the problem with the design of the card, is that it can also hit this Glasspool Mimic. And Glasspool Mimic comes into play as a copy of the Captain, not having been cast itself, and you get to repeat the process over and over again. So it's not impossible for you to go from empty to turn 4 where you have about 18 power in play, which is insanity. And you also have Oprah, Skyclave Hierophant. Whenever a cleric you control dies or Oprah itself dies, then you get to return a cleric card from your graveyard to the battlefield, as long as there is one with less than the CMC of the cleric that died. So it gives you resilience to board wipes and can be a bit of a headache for control. Also, importantly, dodges Vanishing Verse. So a lot of decks don't have great answers to this. It dodges Divine Purge and Vanishing Verse, so it lines up pretty well with the control decks of the format. So in the sideboard, we have basically 2 classes of cards. We have classes that are good against control, and we have cards that are good against creatures. On the control side of things, we have 3 copies of Paladin class, which taxes opponent's instants, gives us a mana sink if our board is empty for an Anthem, and also can sneakily get through the last few points of damage by giving creatures double strike. Especially combined with the 1-man land we have in the deck, Cave of the Frost Dragon, sometimes you can get people with that. Valorous Stance, pretty good against opposing Hullbreaker Horrors, pretty good against opposing dragons, and also serviceable to save your own creatures if they're the targets of removal. Decent card altogether. We have the rest of the playset of Skyclave Apparition, which is pretty solid against creature decks as well. It's a card that we know and love. 4 copies of Go Blank, of course. Izzet was a menace in this past tournament, and for the past few major alchemy events, Izzet has been a menace. Go Blank is a way to address the graveyards, which deals with Galvanic Iteration, and it deals with Leer, which are the biggest threats to these kinds of creature decks. And we also have an interesting inclusion of 3 copies of Divine Smite, which is a card that I didn't even know existed until now, but it makes a whole lot of sense now that I think about it. Target creature opponent controls phases out, which is pretty bad. But if it's black, then then you get to exile it instead. And so it's basically the extra copies of Vanishing Verse, but it's really effective at dealing with some things that Vanishing Verse misses. Think things like Edgar, think things like Oprah, think things like big black planeswalkers like Lolth, Sorin, that kind of thing. So that's a pretty effective inclusion, some nice innovation there, and I'm interested to see how it plays out. Okay, so let's take this for a spin, play a couple matches, and see how the deck performs for us. Okay, so here we are on the play with a 2-lander, but an unkeepable 2-lander. We don't have white, we can't cast any of our spells. We'll send this one back. This is significantly better. We have a 2-3-4 curve. The Glasspool Mimic seems to be the thing that doesn't fit the most. I think I want to play the Forsaken Crossroads tapped on 1. No, yeah, we'll play that tapped on black on 1, and then play the Cleric Valkyrie Oprah from there, I think. It just guarantees that we curve out. Scry for the 4th land. I think it's our worst land, but I think it's fine. We do want our 4th land to be able to play Oprah. It's a little conservative keeping that. Maybe I'm supposed to bottom it for gas. So opponent chose Kazandu Valley. We're probably up against mono green. Outside chance that we're up against some sort of Gruul here. The matchup, I think, is pretty good for us as long as our stuff lives. Ranger class is not a huge problem for us. And I think we're just playing our stuff, honestly. Let's just get the Valkyrie in play. Pumps up the Cleric, lets us attack through this 2-2. Pumps Ranger class. This is not really a concern. Snap block. Looks like they're going to miss their land drop as well, maybe? No, they just play the tap land. Okay, so we have options. We can play the Spellbinder and take away a 4-drop. If they have a Seeker's Chariot, then that's probably something that's worth doing. If they had a way to kill our stuff, they probably would have done it last turn, which makes Oprah less appealing. I think, although next turn, if we draw untapped land, we can play Cleric plus Spellbinder, which is pretty sweet. So maybe that does mean we're just supposed to do this in the name of mana efficiency. I think I'm going to play this on blue in case we draw the Glasspool Mimic. And we're just going to swing. One's going to hit us for 4, and I think we're worried most about, I guess at this point, Chariot. Possibly like Pack Leader plus Fight Spell is a concern. Old Growth Troll does not particularly bother me. Tenacious Pup. The sequencing there is interesting, right? So this is probably just Lunar Veteran into Spellbinder. Take away whatever their big play is. Huntmaster, 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 Brawl. Okay. Yeah. Interesting that they chose to not pump the Old Growth Troll. I guess they were concerned that we would exile it with something like a Skyclave Apparition, but okay. So what are we not interested in this matchup? I think Paulo is probably the worst. I think I'm fine cutting most of him because we're interested in the Skyclave Apparitions, which take up the same spot on the curve. And I think I like a copy of Valorous Stance as well. Um, I don't know how I feel about Oprah in the matchup. It does make a lot of their ground attacks awkward, so I guess I'm interested in it. Angel of Unity is just kind of whatever, but on the draw, it's probably fine. Vanishing Verse against the monocolor deck seems outstanding, of course. Feel naked without having one copy of Paulo to fetch with the Pyre of Heroes. But I think I like this. I think this is fine. There's also an argument for maybe trimming a land on the draw, keeping one Paulo, but I think this mana base is already pretty aggressive as it is. So I think I'm fine just doing this. Okay. Um, we have the captain, which is the most important part. We have a removal spell. We have life gain payoffs. We're gonna need a little help from the top of our deck, but we will be able to scry for it. Tenacious Pup, sure. So Vanishing Verse is going to play pretty well against whatever thing they play. So is Skyclave Apparition, realistically. So let's get this down on white, and we will scry. I think I want that, honestly. Hopefully we just go kill their thing, captain. Yeah, I definitely want to kill this pack leader before they untap. So let's get this down on black. And we'll just do this main phase. Opponent's only on 3 cards left in hand. That represents a pretty compelling path for them to get back into the game. So now they could have Snakeskin Veil available. Let's do a priority check. Doesn't look like it. So I'm fine just Skyclave Apparitioning away this pack leader now. Hopefully they don't have a fight spell, and they're done. Okay. Yeah, that was smooth. That was great. Okay. 1-0. On to the next one. Okay, on the play, paired up against a relatively high mythic player late in the season, so that's pretty exciting. Cleric, Voice, Oprah, Glasspool Mimic is pretty good. We keep this, and I think we're probably supposed to play this tapped on white. And scry. Not interested in another Glasspool Mimic. And in terms of what to play on turn 2, it's probably the Cleric, right? Because the Cleric will pump the Voice the turn the Voice comes into play. Opponent plays Sundown Pass. Red-white. Not sure what this is. So we have the conservative option of just playing Glasspool Mimic tap next turn, which will guarantee the Inquisitor Captain. I think that's a little too conservative. Jeskai Dragons. Okay. Now that we've drawn the second Voice of the Blessed, I definitely want to get this down. Our stuff can start to get pretty big. If we whiff on the 4 mana for Inquisitor Captain next turn, then at least our stuff will start to grow pretty large. Jeskai Dragons is pretty scary. They're probably playing something like the standard red Dragon Core, along with Imrith and probably the Boros Dragon, the Velomaka's Lorehold. So that is a concern of ours. We're going to need to get them dead pretty quick. Fearsome Whelp's coming in, no fear. Discount everything again, miss your land drop, okay. So we are a little concerned here about getting Jwari disrupted. Jwari disruption is aggressive in the Jeskai mana base here. And if they had Jwari disruption, then they would have played it as a land. So I am down just to play Inquisitor Captain here, and if you have like Disdainful Stroke or something, then all the power to you. But I think more likely is Dragon's Fire. And if this touches the board, and they Dragon's Fire with a Cleric in response, then we have an outside chance of casting the Glasspool Mimic next turn, copying the Captain. And if not, then we can just play Oprah. And touch the board. And we hit Paulo and Angel of Unity. Paulo seems great. We'll undo some of the damage that the Fearsome Whelp has done. Fading Hope, the Voice back to hand, and Scry top. Holy shit. They did have the Dragon's Fire. And they're going to be able to hit us for 6 with it. And they have Divine Purge as well. Holy shit. So the Goldspan Dragon will probably come down next turn. They'll attack with it. They'll get to play a 2-mana spell. So it's probably one of Goldspan Dragon or Dragon's Fire. They're in mana trouble. I think Goldspan Dragon's the take. We'll see. We'll see what they do here. If they play like Town Razor Tyrant, then they're tapped out. They do. Okay. They hit the Sanctum. I don't think we're interested in sacrificing that. Find untapped white. We don't have blue to be able to cast the Glasspool Mimic. I think we're just supposed to hold that in case we draw untapped blue. Oprah seems pretty nice here. Although the voices get pretty big too. How big does this get? Gain life once, goes up to 3. Gain life again, goes up to 4. Next turn, they'll have another Town Razor Tyrant plus Dragon's Fire. This will cost 4, so they could play land, Goldspan Dragon, attack Dragon's Fire. That's pretty awful. Okay. I think I like just going super wide, making their attacks worse. And do we attack with the Cleric? If they double block, are we okay with that? I think so. Okay. So the Whelp is gone. These things are discounted into oblivion. We do need to be concerned, but if we keep gaining life, then the voices will grow tall enough to box with even their biggest dragons. Divine Purge is coming. There's not a whole lot we can do about that. If they draw land, Goldspan Dragon attack, then Divine Purge will come next turn. So I think we're going to need some help off the top. Okay, so they attack with Inferno instead. No, they don't attack. They just play it defensively. Now I think I'm in the business of sacrificing that. That's pretty sweet. Okay. There is a chance that we can get to 27 life total here. And our stuff will get huge. Oh, baby. Oh, baby. And we have these Vigilant Flyers, which is pretty sweet. And if they block here, then we get in for 6. They block here, they take 6. 9, 15. So this is lethal. We might as well attack with Paulo too. Yeah, I think this is an attack with everything moment. And now even Divine Purge doesn't save them because it will not exile the Inquisitor captains. So even if they somehow rip untapped white, yeah, nice. Okay. So Jeskai Dragony stuff. Valorous Stance seems pretty good. I don't know how I feel about Skyclave Apparition. Probably pretty bad, honestly. So it's probably just the Valorous Stances that come in. Skyclave Apparition probably comes out. And I think Oprah is kind of medium because they're not doing a whole lot of killing our stuff or trading. I think it's just get our stuff big enough. Like, it's also they have Divine Purge as well, which is probably their main form of removal, which dodges Oprah nicely. Obviously, Oprah itself is not hit by Divine Purge, but a lot of its effect is dulled because our stuff just isn't going to go to the graveyard all that much. I think this is what I'm going for. On the draw, of course, this will be harder. Okay, on the draw with a okay hand, I'm going to keep it. It doesn't really get out of the gate super quickly, but it does tick a lot of boxes. We have the early 2-drop creature, we have removal spell, we have Oprah, which I probably should have considered boarding out both copies of, but here we are. Opponent plays Plains and Orb. Okay. So probably their next turn is going to just be to play a dragon, which means I think we can be pretty safe playing the Voice and hold up and then Valorous Stance to kill whatever they play. Yeah, this is one that we'll play on white. Yep. So we'll kill that one. We will decline to sacrifice. Now we're definitely killing that one. And probably playing this. We know we want to play one of these two on blue, and it's probably this one. So we'll just do this. Pridemate, of course, kind of sad with only 2 mana up. Or sorry, Pridemate kind of sad with no life gain triggers. Play the Fearsome Whelp. Okay. Feels like opponent's on empty. Like, they probably have like one or 2 dragons. We'll be able to kill one of them with Valorous Stance. The two orbs obviously are going to do a pretty good job of finding more dragons. Goldspan Dragon's a good one, but at least we can kill that with Valorous Stance. We are again going to decline. Glasspool Mimic, sure. So that Goldspan Dragon's going to have to die post-haste. So let's attack first. And I'm going to get this down on white, play the Pyre, and hold up Valorous Stance to kill the dragon when they play it. Well, it's thinking, though. Not sure what you would think about. I guess you could have, like, the Moonveil Regent in hand. I suppose Divine Purge would suck. Obviously, not letting them attack. And they attack with the Fearsome Whelp. Okay. Ballsy. So they think they can win this race. Okay, never mind. They have another Fearsome Whelp available. This is pretty frightening. I think we are at the point now where I'm willing to sacrifice this. Cleric. Um... So we can Cleric Pyre, find the Angel. Which I don't hate. And that opens the door for us to sacrifice that Angel later for Inquisitor Captain. And then we have the Glasswell Mimic in hand. Okay, let's do that. Could also take Spellbind. Could also pick Spellbinder here, actually. Hit that last card in hand, which is probably a pretty good one. If it's already super discounted, it makes no difference at all. But if the plan is going to be to sacrifice it to the Pyre next turn anyway, then I guess this is fine. And there is some chance it prevents them from casting it. Okay. Well, that's probably the worst case. So Braid is going to kill the Pyre of Heroes, presumably, now that it's threatening to recur the... threatening to bring in the Inquisitor Captain. No blocks. If they do abrade the Pyre, then we'll probably just play Oprah. Hopefully we find Inquisitor Captain naturally off the top. That's probably the best case scenario. They're really low on red. So if they find like Townraiser Tyrant or Goldspan Dragon, they won't even be able to play it off the orb. Imrith is a good one, though. Another one they're not able to cast. It's possible we would be supposed to Pyre away the Cleric to take away the Imrith before they could cast it. So it's going to get double discounted here. It'll cost 3 with double blue. Even if we take it with another Paulo. Oh, okay, so nothing mattered. Alright, I'm glad we tanked on that. Okay. Well, what to do? We can either play Cleric or we can play Spellbinder. Nothing else really makes a whole lot of sense. I think I'm down to play Spellbinder to make their next turn more awkward. Given that this hasn't been discounted yet, because they exiled their own Fearsome Whelps in order to make that play. So they can probably... Ooh. Okay, I was not expecting that. That's going to be tough to race. However... we were on the draw, so we do have 6 mana available if we want it, but there's no use in that. A Braid is going to kill the Spellbinder next turn. I think we want Oprah in play for when that happens. So let's get this down now, probably on black, realistically. We'll just scry. Scry that to the bottom. We'll just play Oprah and say go. And no matter how they kill the Spellbinder here, we'll get something back for our troubles. Obviously, like, recurring the Voice of the Blessed is not, like, the most incredible thing in the world here. They do nothing. We find Inquisitor Captain. So they could have, like, the conducive current thing. The 3 mana board wipe. I think we're still supposed to play this anyway. Yeah, I think we're supposed to play this anyway. If they kill something in response with... If they kill the... if they use the board wipe in response, we'll get something back from the graveyard, and hopefully we can hit like a 4 Toughness Angel. I'm definitely afraid of the board wipe here. Just to braid the Inquisitor Captain. Okay, so the idea here is to make it so that we can't Glasspool Mimic it. Well done. Probably... Definitely going to play this Glasspool Mimic, but I think it's going to be on the Spellbinder to try to hit what they have in their hand. Another dragon, sure. And I think we're fine. We don't have anything else in the bin, so trades are not as good for us. But I think I'm fine just getting this Spellbinder down. Alright, getting the Spellbinder attack in. I guess they can abrade. They don't have a braid anymore. They used that already. They used that last turn. So it's probably just Fearsome Whelp and nothing else. Feels good. These things are no longer in hand because of Apollo, so they're not going to get the discount anymore. Found Lunarch Veteran. Okay. So now we can Pyre of Heroes Spellbinder to get the Inquisitor Captain again. Seems pretty good. Oh, we can't because we can't... because it comes in tapped. That's really obnoxious. Okay. Forgot that that would come in tapped, honestly. That seems a little oppressive. Yeah... I think we attack with Oprah and one of the Spellbinders. If this is the one that's going to get recurred from the battle from the graveyard, then I think I want it to come in untapped. Okay. This is fine. And next turn we'll have the Pyre of Heroes to fetch an Inquisitor Captain. They have another tapped Whelp. Feels good. That means they did not draw a land. They also didn't draw a playable, so this feels like it's a removal spell. Probably a Dragon's Fire. Okay. I think what I like here... I think I like Glasspool Mimic here on the Spellbinder, because if it's a removal spell, I don't want them to be able to kill the Inquisitor Captain in response when it hits the battlefield. Scry's top. So that's probably land, I would think. Let's pitch this Spellbinder, find an Inquisitor Captain. And a Righteous Factory seems pretty damn good. So we know that the Imrith is probably getting played next turn. They could play the Adult Goldspan Dragon. I think no attacks. I think there's a realistic chance that we can get to 27 life. Roiling Vortex. Okay, so that stops us from gaining life, which is tilting. But we also, like... It also puts a lot of pressure on them. And we have another Pyre of Heroes we can use to... Or we can use the Pyre of Heroes again to fetch another Inquisitor Captain. Which definitely sounds like the way to go to me. Let's... We can't gain life this turn. None of these things matter if we can't gain life. So let's start with that. I'll just try to go super wide. Right. Yeah, we're never going to gain life with that Rolling Vortex in play. So the Righteous Valkyrie doesn't make any sense to copy that. But I suppose it's better than a Lunar Veteran. And given that, I think we just swing. I guess now it doesn't block the Adult Goldspan Dragon, or Adult Gold Dragon if they play it. Yeah, so maybe this is wrong because it puts us behind in the race if they do find the land to play the lifelinker, but I think we're also kind of on a clock because I think their stuff is probably a little better. And with this Rolling Vortex in play... Well, actually, no, they're still able to gain life and we're not. And I kind of thought I had enough white to play one of the Voice of the Blessed Statue of the Cleric, so I definitely should have played this one tapped or played one of the voices instead. At least if they attack with the dragon, then we can block with the Valkyrie. They will go to 16, and we will swing back for 2, 4, 7, 10, 13, 14. So they'll almost be dead. Their alternative is just to play Imrith, but that seems really sad. They did find the land, so now... The other thing is if they play the gold... Yeah, now they don't have the... Now they don't have the mana to stop us from gaining life. Yeah, so now they're in this really uncomfortable spot. We drew the natural Inquisitor Captain. Okay. Yeah, it was definitely a sad spot for them, but I think they made the right choice. There really wasn't much else in the way of options. And this is just over, right? Because we made it to 27. Yeah. Yeah, nice. Pretty convincing win. If I can misplay like that and we still get there, then definitely the deck shows off its power. I think the Jeskai version of the Dragons deck is pretty greedy. The two copies, like the copies of Divine Purge that they run, are obviously pretty effective against us, but it did also mean that A, they weren't running a critical mass of dragons anymore, so the Fearsome Whelps weren't as good, and B, it was much harder for them to actually cast their stuff. Like we saw a few of their dragons be stuck in their hand because they had double red mana cost and they only had 1 red in game 1. But yeah, deck seems great. Congratulations again to Sébastien. And I'm looking forward to seeing what he brings in the next one. And I will see you guys in the next video. If you like this kind of thing, check out my YouTube channel, which will be available in link form in the description below. We do this kind of thing all the time. We take a cool deck list that did well in a tournament or is doing well on the ladder or Moto or something like that. And we just play a set of games with it and see how it does as we learn the format. Anyway, thanks a lot, guys. I'll see you in the next one.